Lake Amphitheater, the legendary Bob Dylan will be there July 6th, Motley Crue on August 21st, and Santana and the Doobie Brothers on August 27th. Get the complete details on all the upcoming shows on the concert page, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Will you be surprised, Jonny Athletic, if whatever the swing is, we've already named Kyrie, always, Giannis is going to be in the mix, and maybe a couple of other names you can bring to my attention. Will you be surprised if Conley does not take another big swing this offseason?
Yeah, I will be surprised because, even in these last two seasons that the team has been largely successful, he has tried to make really big moves. Kevin Durant 2 years ago, Giannis this year. He has positioned himself as a GM that wants to win big with Ant, but that also looked at his roster as constructed and said, we need to be better. And so now when you take in the data from this last series, even though I do think it was admirable that they were able to go 6 games when they were shorthanded against a very, very good team, I think he will look at it and look at the landscape in the West and say, we're not good enough. And so how do you get good enough? You go make another big move. And so I'm not guaranteeing that one will happen, but I do think he will definitely try to make something significant happen with the starting lineup to position them to at least say, hey, we have a different looking team that might have a better shot against San Antonio and Oklahoma City next season.
Where does Rudy fit into this thing? There are people who want him gone. There are other people who say it's hard to trade that contract. We all know what he does defensively, but he's not 25 anymore. So how shocked would you be if Rudy is not on this team next year?
I'd be surprised, but I would also say it could be a little bit like the Cat trade in that one of the reasons they traded Cat was not only his contract, but because they could get the most for him. I don't think that it's a question that if you put Rudy and Julius on the block, Rudy's probably going to get a little bit more return. He still has age.
Even with the salary difference?
Yeah, but the salary is pretty similar.
That's right. He
signed that extension.
You're right. They brought it down.
They're right in the same ballpark.
Right.
And so the salary is very manageable. Just like, for instance, Boston needs a center. Rudy would make a lot of sense for them to be interested in. There's going to be a lot of teams that would be interested in at Charlotte. There's a lot of teams that would love to have a defensive-minded center. And let me remind everyone that it was not that long ago that Rudy Gobert put together one of the very best defensive series you could ask anyone in shutting down Jokic the way that he did. And so, yes, it went really poorly against Wembanyama, but there are plenty of teams that will look at the tape of what he did to Jokic, and even especially if he were to go east, where there's not as much of that, that I think that there will be enticements for the Timberwolves on that front. The question is, do they want to part with him because he is still very effective and very important to what this team does on a daily basis. Just from a floor raising standpoint, Rudy Gobert is enormous for what this team does.
I have received a surprising percentage of texters offering up a variation of this same sentiment. Let me read it and then give you a chance to give your view on it. Anthony Edwards has been telling you exactly who he is for years. Don't be surprised. Yet anointed as a superstar. Trade him and change the culture. It's a waste of time watching the Wolves sign lifetime dedicated Minnesota sports fan done with the Wolves.
I mean,
where do you even begin?
What more do you need to see from this guy?
Well, you know what it comes down to? It's that belief of that's when the ball really gets sticky. And when he's out of the game or injured, then the ball moves much, much better. That's the sentiment. I think people get deceived by those small samples.
He's not perfect. He is not yet Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is 28 years old. He is not Victor Wembanyama, who's 7'6". But the entire organization changed when Anthony Edwards arrived. And he became a player who guarantees you that you are in the playoffs in the Western Conference, which is no small task. And oh, by the way, he just went through an entire playoffs with no good knees and still found a way to have incredible impact on a lot of games. It didn't go great for him in the final couple against San Antonio, but when you look at a guy who wants it as badly as he does, who is willing to come back from a hyperextended knee in 8 days, and who is literally throwing his body on the line for this team, yeah, he could pass the ball a little bit more. Yeah, he could be a little bit better decision maker with his turnovers. Maybe in the regular season, he could have been a little bit more locked in defensively. But there are very few people in this league who strike fear into the heart of an opponent on a nightly basis. And Anthony Edwards is absolutely one of those guys. And if you're going to trade him, you might as well just start the whole thing. You might as well move this team to Seattle because,
yeah.
This is the star player that you wait for. This is the kind of caliber of athlete and, that has that internal drive that you dream about finding and are almost impossible to find. They have one, the notion that they should move on from him is asinine.
This next question is probably unanswerable because it depends on really who might be traded away, but taking your best shot at it, among the bench players, is it fair to say, first of all, Ndasumu, who I think we both love, Guardsy loves, in a perfect world, I mean, I can see a world in which he has to start, but in a perfect world, he's your first guard off of the bench. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think if you had him as your first guard off the bench, then you're like, hey, we got a real team here. We have a really, really good team. Yeah.
So where do we project the big guy, the young big guy, and where do we, where does Shannon fit in? How does he take the next step? Because we've talked about it constantly. You got to have the other teams have young guys that are up and coming, these wings who seem explosive and they got a lot of juice, and I think he represents that at times. But is he good enough to really sustain that? Where is he going to be in the hierarchy next year?
Yeah, so for Shannon, I think that you walk away from this season pretty encouraged about what he showed down the stretch at the end of the regular season when he finally got some minutes, when he finally got healthy, and then in the playoffs in select games. He wasn't great all the way through, but this was his first crack at it, and so I think you give him a little grace. He certainly needs to develop a right hand. He has no right hand at all. And so if he can work on that part of his game, he is a downhill threat every time he has it. What I loved seeing in the playoffs was that they did put the ball in his hands. And he showed an ability to create with the ball in his hands that is encouraging to me. And so, I am pretty bullish on where he can go going forward, because I do think now Chris Finch has a little bit better of an idea of how to use him. I think he miscast him earlier on in his time here of sit in the corner, catch, maybe attack off of that. Whereas now, no, he can be a featured part of your offense and take some of that weight off of Ant's shoulders as well. So I feel good about him. Berenger. That's why I do think that something has to give with the Rudy, Naz, Randall front court. Berenger is too talented to not get minutes, but he is also too green to be able to sit on the bench and improve a great deal. So is he ready to be a starting center on a Western Conference contender? Probably not. But you have to find a way to carve out 20 minutes a night at least for him in a rotation and let him develop, because he has an incredibly tantalizing combination of work ethic and talent and size that it jumps off of the page. And so they have to get him in the mix and get him playing. And that means moving one of those three guys. I don't think you want to move Naz Reid. And so one of the other two probably, just to get rid of the logjam so he can get into that rotation.
What do we need to know about DiVincenzo if we assume he's out for all of next season? What are the contractual implications of that? Where are we left on Dante?
Yeah, it's just devastating on multiple fronts. First for Dante, because he was playing great basketball. I do believe would have helped a great deal with the Spurs. Would they have won the series? Probably not, but would it have been a heck of a lot more competitive? Yes, it would have been. But not only, he's going into the final year of his deal, so he was hoping this summer to get an extension. Yeah. probably north of $20 million a year. And now I think that is all on hold, unfortunately, for him. The other part that is really damaging is he is now, I think it's 12.5 million next year, and that's just sitting on the books for the Wolves, and they can't do anything about it. Would they trade him? I don't know. If they had to have a blockbuster deal and they had to use his money, maybe. No one wants to see him go because they want to have him around and rehabbing and all of those things. And he's really important to what this team does. There's a scenario he returns at the end of the season, but man, like that's just asking a lot for an Achilles tendon. And so how they handle all of this is going to be very delicate, and it's also going to be very tricky to navigate it all because they want to improve their team and be really competitive next year, but yet you have this anchor like sitting there and just rehabbing. It just really is an unfortunate situation. Is there
any chance that Conley goes to the owners and says, look, we got two ways we can go here. I can try to be creative and piece something together with another name, whether it's Kyrie potentially or Giannis. That's complicated. It'll gut us in a lot of other ways. There is another way we can go here. I don't want to call it a gap year. Mm-hmm. But I say we're going to continue, obviously, to build a thing around Anthony, and if we can, to a certain extent, Jaden and Naz, because of their ages. But we might have to take a sidestep here where I evaluate and identify good young athletic talent that's not ready right now. But if we give them 2 or 3 years, I really like what we could become. Is there any chance they might go that route?
I mean, there is a chance because like making a trade for a star in this league is really difficult. And what happens if San Antonio rocks OKC in this upcoming series? Do you think that the Thunder aren't going to get all their draft picks and all of their assets together and maybe make a run at Giannis or something like that? I think that's possible. And so when you look at the landscape of trying to pull one of these things off, it's super fun to talk about and to throw scenarios out there. But the reality of the situation is the Wolves could do everything in their power to try and make something like this happen and not get a bite. And so if that occurs, that could cause them to pivot to this other timeline. It would be tricky as well because Anthony Edwards wants to win right now. Yeah, he showed you that in these playoffs. He did not come back in 8 days from the hyperextended knee because he thought he just wanted to show people that he was tough. He wanted to win, and he will still want to win. And so you would have to sell him on that as much as you sold ownership on it. And I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but it will be a process that is not as clean as we're going to get player X and we're just going to make a run at this.
Is Durant purely past tense, do you think, or not?
I think so, and I don't think Houston will want to move him either. And again, that what would have to come back to that is Kevin would have to be open to coming to Minnesota, right, which he's been wishy-washy on. And that is the dynamic that comes into play as well. I think Giannis would be more open to playing in Minnesota than, say, LeBron. Like, I would love, like, the Wolves should make a play for LeBron and just say, hey, like, do you want to win in the Western Conference? You love Anthony Edwards? Do you want a spot where we can put Rudy right next to you and, like, this would all really work out and fit really well? Like, the basketball reasons for LeBron James in Minnesota are overwhelmingly positive, but does he want to leave LA and live in Minnesota for a year and ride out that way? I think that the answer to that is probably no. And so that also factors into anyone they're pursuing, Kyrie, anyone else.
Do you think we're going to be as aggressive in pursuing Giannis as we seem to be at the deadline now that we have more time? Or do we already know that price? Well, I don't know. You tell me. I mean, how extravagant is that price going to be at this point?
There's an argument to be made that the price is lower right now. I mean, given his contract situation, given another year of injuries for Giannis, given his age, I think a smart team would go to Milwaukee and say, yeah, the price that you wanted yesterday ain't the same price as it is today. I do think that what will ultimately factor into what the price ends up being is the desperation of the teams that get involved.
Yeah,
like,
right.
if there is a team that is willing to splash the pot with 5 first-round picks and some young guys and stuff, the Wolves aren't going to be able to meet that price. But it is possible that the league will look at this situation and first of all know that Giannis wants out of Milwaukee, that the idea that he's going to return there next year is pretty untenable. And so the leverage that the Bucks had is eroding. And so I do think that at the end of the day, the possibility that whatever price is paid for him is a lot lower than maybe it would have been at the trade deadline or before last season. I think that is a likely scenario which plays into Minnesota's hand. Will they ultimately have enough? Who knows? But the price has dropped on Giannis Antetokounmpo, I believe.
How much money? What do we have available to us financially? What is our cap situation going into this summer?
They're under the second apron right now, and so they actually have some financial flexibility available to them. They have a couple of draft picks to dangle as well. You have Randall and Gobert and Shannon, and could you throw Béranger into a deal? Yeah, you could. You probably don't want to, but you could. So the cupboard is not bare. They don't have handcuffs behind their back, but they certainly are not flush with flexibility. And so they are basically kind of in the middle. And that is one of the reasons they made the cat trade, was to get to a point where they are right now, where it is not an anvil hanging over their head ready to crush them. But they are certainly not in a super advantageous position either. Are we worried that we're going to get priced out of the Dosunmu discussion? How expensive is that going to be? Or do you think that'll start, being a little bit more reasonable as we get into the summer? Yeah, what you look at for a situation like that is what other teams have cap space. And there's not a ton of other teams with huge cap space to go. Brooklyn has it. I think the Lakers have it, which I think the Lakers would be an interesting, landing spot for Dosunmu. The Bulls have it. They just got rid of him. And so I can't believe I can't imagine they're going to do that. There's a few other teams that have a good amount of cap space. In some ways, the way that the playoffs ended for the Wolves might actually help them a little bit with Dosunmu. He had 43 in game 4, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, you're going to have to pay this guy $30 million a year. It didn't kind of go great the rest of the way for him with the injuries and everything else. And so I think that the price tag for him is going to be within the Wolves' wheelhouse. They will be able to do a deal for Ayo Dosunmu, and they gave up some assets for him, and so they want to bring him back. And so I think all of that is doable. Maybe the Lakers would outbid them, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think that the price tag is going to be there to bring him back at a price that they want to do that, and I think that's where I would put my money.
Do we have the cojones, or I would actually say the stupidity, to entertain a Ja Morant acquisition?
I mean, I think if drastic times got there, possibly, but I don't think that internally the perception of Ja is one that is we wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. But I do think that there are many other players that they would target first before they went and looked at Ja Morant. I wouldn't rule it out completely, but it's not one that I'm preparing for it's imminent or anything like that.
The name comes up almost every time regarding point guards, Tyus Jones. We all love him.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's good enough at this point where he moves the needle, for me at least, enough in a way to say, to be our starter. So what do you think of him?
Yeah, I think that he would be a nice addition to the bench. If you don't bring back Mike Conley.
Yeah, exactly.
He is a Mike Conley clone almost, and just a younger version.
Yeah.
He did have some moments for teams down the stretch, and when you did give him some time, I still think he can be a rotation player. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that it would be something where Tyus Jones is the starting point guard of this team, and then the issues are solved.
Hindsight always being 20/20, Johnny. Would we have been better served keeping Nah and letting Nas go? What do we think about that That's essentially what it came down to a certain extent.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. It was basically they had to choose two of Nas, Julius, and Nas, and they chose Julius and Nas. I don't think so. Nikhil had a great year. He was terrific for Atlanta. That team also lost in the playoffs and didn't really go as far as they wanted to go in the East. And so, the Wolves were, I still understand the logic behind the choice because they were deep in the front court. And they had Nas, they want to keep him, and behind him they weren't sure of what they had. And then you had Dillingham, you had Shannon, you had Clark. Like, as a decision maker in the league, you have to say, we have to give these guys a chance to go do something. You had to give Dillingham a chance. And if you kept Nikhil, he would not have had a chance to go. And it ultimately turned out that he was not ready for that, and they moved on from him. But I still just will not entertain the idea that that was the wrong decision. I think it was the right one given the roster that was set up for them and given, kind of how everything played out.
Is Drew Holiday, as I presumably less expensive addition at point guard than and certainly less explosive than what Kyrie represents at his best? Is that something to think about? So
Drew is I think another ideal candidate in terms of defensive minded, really, really smart, can make plays. Another guy I think he's even older than Kyrie. I think he makes more money than Kyrie right now. And so you'd have to kind of look at all of that. But Chris Finch has coached Drew Holiday in New Orleans. They have a good rapport. And so another guy who, if you swung and missed on a few others, I would have no problem bringing Drew Holiday in because he's a winning player. I would just, again, be concerned about age and injury with him. But from the physical, mental makeup of what you need next to Anthony Edwards, if he can stay healthy for 65 games, he'd be great.
Give me a couple other names we should be thinking about that we haven't talked about. Anybody else come to mind that you go, okay, it's not necessarily certain, but that they might sniff around these players or explore possibilities that are enough to move the needle? Because I've had like four people bring up who's the guys now with the Knicks who was in New Orleans, the backup point guard. What the hell's his name?
Oh, Alvarado?
Yeah, Alvarado. He doesn't move the needle enough at this point, does he?
No, I don't think so. No. Like a guy who would be interesting to me on a team that is revamping, Jalen Suggs, in Orlando, defensive minded, but can handle the ball, can play next to Ant. A streaky shooter, but when he's on the court, Orlando wins a lot of games. So maybe they wouldn't part with him, but that's a guy that I would really kind of be interested in. I'd look at New Orleans, do they break up things with Trey Murphy and a few of their guys? Zion is not a guy I would look at, but Trey Murphy's a really, good shooting, defending wing, that would interest me. As I kind of have more conversations with guys as the dust settles, I think I'll get a clearer picture on other options. But, Suggs is a guy that, again, a long shot, but one that I think would fit really, really well. And it depends on what Orlando wants to do coming off of a disappointing end to their season. And
for the record, for those just joining here more recently, I know there's been a lot of juice associated with the fact that it's just Tim Conley speaking to you and the other Jackals tomorrow, and that's being perceived as perhaps a signal regarding some shakiness on Finchy. What's left out of that theory is that Finchy did already speak to you guys.
He did.
And as you say, the Wolves are following the same pattern they have tended to follow at least the last year or two, correct?
Yeah, last year in particular, after the loss to Oklahoma City, Finch talked the next day, and Connolly talked 2, 3, 4 days later. So that there's nothing irregular about this. And, as I said, Finch is under contract for a couple more years. I have received no indications that they are really looking hard at making a change there. I expect him back. If he gets fired, that would be surprising to me. I mean, you never say never on anything.
Right.
But with everything that I've heard and just knowing the contract and knowing that the players themselves have put it on their feet a lot more than they put on Finch. You know this, Dan, talking to players in the locker room on and off the record, you can always feel when there's real
yes
bucking against the head coach. And I just never got that for most of this year. And I offered many opportunities to having conversations. Hey, is he losing these guys? Mm-hmm. And it never has been that. And so, I think that, Tim Connolly has always operated on stability and continuity. He doesn't like to fire people. Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie have made that kind of a bellwether of their ownership, as they want stability. And so I'm anticipating that Chris Finch will be here next year.
Here's a trade proposal from, isn't 614 Boston area?
Might be. Yes.
I think 614 right. Might be. Straight up trade Rudy Gobert for Derek White.
Whew. Well,
that's coming from Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, sorry, 614. It's not Boston.
All right.
Maybe 617 is Boston.
That sounds right.
There is. Yeah.
Well, Derek White, again, another perfect fit next to Ant. His shot really fell off this year.
Yeah, he did. He did slump a little bit offensively.
I would be a little concerned about that. But it's at least the kind of thing that I would think about, because it reconfigures the roster. It opens up some time for Berenger, and it puts a guard next to Ant who can handle the ball, who's been in big situations, and maybe he can get rid of the yips or whatever he had and get back to playing well. So that's one I would at least entertain and wouldn't dismiss right out of hand.
Lastly, this text came in. Being a Wolves season ticket holder for 4 years and sitting literally next to Jonny Athletic, I just had to give him his flowers, as he literally is the nicest guy in the business and is always willing to say hi and chat and take a picture with new guests we would bring. Unfortunately, we did not renew for next year, but we wanted to thank him for his genuine kindness. That's very nice.
Very nice. Very nice
to hear, isn't
it? Wolves fans in person are wonderful.
Yeah.
Wolves fans on Twitter sometimes are a little different, little different breed. But I've said it before. I love this fan base. I can't imagine covering any other team or having any other role. And I'm lucky to serve the good folks at Target Center and beyond that read my stuff and listen to us on the show and listen to the podcast and everything else. This is home. I love it. It's great.
Oh, I thought you were going to play something. I could have sworn Guardsy was.
I was thinking.
I know Guardsy's thinking about it.
Something was up.
I was thinking.
But you decided not to?
This is not pandering. This is a heartfelt thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to let Johnny have his heartfelt moments. I texted him privately a week or so ago that he said something else, and I'm going to let him have. I'm not going to rip him for it publicly. It's just going to be private.
Spurs, Oklahoma City. Who wins and how many games?
I took Spurs in 7. I think it's going to be an unbelievable series. I
am really looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Oklahoma City looks great, and Jalen Williams is back, so they are full bore and ready to go. I saw that Fox and Vassell, or one of their other starters, was questionable for game 1, so I'm a little worried about that. But these two teams don't like each other, and so the kind of the theater that's going to be involved with this and the competitiveness, I think, is going to be off the charts, and so. I can't wait to watch it.
Is there what's the percentage chance you give of Karl Anthony Towns Darnolding us?
Whew.
By taking the whole thing?
Man, so I had no emotion when Darnolded us. If Karl does it, I will be one of the happiest people ever, because he's just a good dude that deserves it.
Question.
I will probably be there for the clinching game if that happens.
Is that right?
We will see. We will see how all that plays out.
They're going to. I'm pretty convinced, although Cleveland's guess showed me something finally last night, but I still think the Knicks are going to be in the finals.
Home court advantage, it's there. They are favored, as they should be, I think. I do think Cleveland's good, so I think they will have to earn it. But Karl is really playing well. He has found his niche with this team, and
he's not moody.
He is not moody. He's always
very
different
cheery. Outlook in the locker room. Is it not true?
It is true.
I mean, we'd roll our eyes at some of the stuff he'd say. But it wasn't that. It wasn't where's Karl's mood today? He's down, he's up, he's sullen, he's brooding. He wasn't much of a brooder, was he?
No, he was always goofy.
Yeah,
and I think
that's the word for it.
That helped things in that locker room. Sometimes there were other guys who did get down in the dumps, and Karl would say something stupid, and they would all roll their eyes and kind of laugh, and then it would go forward. So, we'll be watching that closely. My son and my daughter will be watching it closely as well, wearing their Cat Knicks jerseys and
why wouldn't you?
And seeing how that plays out. So,
by the way, somebody's saying about that Gobert trade to Boston for White, only if they throw in Garza. Bring him back. Let's rectify that blunder.
Right that wrong?
Yes. Let's take care of it when we can.
And have him play over Rioan. That would be great. So, why not? I'd welcome him back. Great kid. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Johnny, great hour. We'll keep in touch because are you doing any other playoffs? Are you just doing post-mortem stuff on the Wolves
post-mortem stuff on the Wolves right now. We'll take the conference finals off, and then if the Knicks are in the finals, you may see me in the Big Apple a little bit. We'll see.
Even better. Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, guys.
Great stuff from Jonny Athletic. A lot of good texts coming in. We'll react to some of those and set the table for the rest of a busy show. Close circuit to Kevin Fallness. There will be a Bill Guerin sighting, but it's not our fault that it won't be until Thursday. I think Guardsy tells me 3 o'clock, right? 3:05?
Thursday at 3 o'clock.
On Thursday?
Yes.
And by the way, if we can get Russo in studio for an hour this week, just let him know he has an open invitation.
When's the last time he came in studio with you?
Never. I don't think he's ever been in studio with us.
Okay. Yeah, but he goes to the Fallness studio, which I think is worse.
That doesn't count. That doesn't count.
I think it's worse for him to go to the Fallness
smellier.
studio. Yeah.
That's for sure, yeah.
No.
There's mice in there, rodents.
Yeah, just please give him the guilt trip that you give me, please.
I'll work on it.
He deserves it. So
thanks for the athletic cap, by the way. This is the other thing he does. You see what he's wearing right now?
Of course I saw it.
He does this every time. He brings it in to put on his own head as if to remind us that every time we've asked him for stuff like that, he hasn't complied.
This isn't even like athletic sanctioned swag. This was a gift from the Branded Bills guys.
Branded Bills.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm a fraud too because I'm wearing a Branded Bills hat too that was free.
Well, I haven't known to do that from time to time.
You got some Indiana
I use
ones.
stuff. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we could use another batch. I'll just throw it out there.
That's okay. We'll accept that.
That one looked good on SportsCenter when Finchy was asking you if you wanted a 33% raise.
You love that one, didn't you, Finchy?
I would take it for sure.
Why wouldn't you? Thanks, Johnny.
The fan at BigDeck.com. Speaking of money, want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. 4 o'clock keyword is family. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword family.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrero on the Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center. This report is sponsored by Express.
Did you ask Johnny about his patronizing tweet about the Wild losing? I didn't. I probably should have. He claimed... No, I did ask him.
We did last week.
We did ask him. That's true. He swears. He said he'd take a polygraph. That in that case, it wasn't patronizing, that he actually meant it. So, take that for whatever it's worth. I don't know. All right. My to-do list for the Wolves. Get a shoot. Now, I'm not saying any of these are gettable.
Yep.
This would be on my list. Get a shooter. Get a point. When I say point guard, it doesn't have to be the purest, but a guard, a starter who can play next to Anthony. Trade Randall. And even after you trade Randall, still hire a team shrink and have a talk with Finchy. Bring him into the principal's office. Get some stuff off your chest. I can't leave that out of the equation because, well, we talked about it. I mean, if you have players continually saying they don't follow the game plan, you can put it on them, and a lot of it is on them. But if I'm paying a coach a lot of money, I'm scratching my head. I'm going, wait a minute. There's a disconnect here. That's out this out in the open. What are we doing about it? Now, maybe the coach says, I can't do anything more about it. You have to change the players. That's going to be the interesting dynamic moving forward. But I'll tell you one other thing I talked to Johnny about during a break, and he didn't disagree with this. It's going to seem minor because it probably wouldn't have mattered what personnel Finchy used to start the second half of game number 6. I'm aware of that. But if I'm running the team, I'm still bringing my coach in to explain why he elected to continue to go down the road he did, puts his starters back in to start the second half of a game in which a 29-point lead had been reduced to, I believe, 12.
12 at halftime.
12 at halftime. That's still double digits.
Yeah.
They're still running uphill. We get all of that. But, and maybe it was being in the stands for so many of these games and even being around fans who are also frustrated. I'm going, your job, even if you think you're overmatched, and even if it's a long shot, your job on any given night is to give your team the best chance to win. Finchie did not do that in the second half of that game. And his comeback was, to Johnny, who asked after the game, was, well, I brought Nas back only 3 minutes into the second half. At that point already, the 12-point lead was 18. So, again, were they going to win the game regardless? Probably not. But I think it's a bad message to send to everybody, including players on that team, that you decide at that moment, even then, I'm stubborn. I don't care what you think about Randall. I don't care what you think about Rudy in a given matchup. We're going back to those individuals. It was I sensed it in the crowd. They're going, well, we're right back. What are we doing? I don't think that's a good look. I think Finchie, on that night, for whatever reason, was being way too stubborn of, we do what we do, and we're going to continue to do it. And I think there are some times he does that too much. I think that has to change. And whether it will or not, I don't know. I'm not calling for his head, but I do think it's okay for the principal to say, I get it. Some of these guys are challenging. But, man, this is too, to me, it may not be that we need a different voice because he's lost the locker room, but when you have players continually saying what they're saying, it's difficult for me to believe that they are following his lead. They clearly are not. If they're still willing to say at this late date, well, we just don't follow what the coaches say. If you're paying a head coach a lot of money, you have a right to ask some questions about it and say, well, that's some kind of disconnect. Is it not? So where are you on all this?
We should pause because we went so long. So maybe we should come back with my thoughts.
That's perfect. That'll work out well. And then top 5 at 5 yet to come. We're open the rest of the show. We are in the abyss. We're going to start transitioning into a number of other subjects that we have not explored in as much detail in recent weeks. There's plenty of meat on that bone. Including some new Feeding Our Future scandal stuff that came to light over the weekend.
I happened to read that this morning.
You can't really make up either. So we'll transition. We don't want to make it too dramatic. You know, we want to ease into it because it might be a little bit too startling for some people.
Yeah,
but we'll get there.
We see the brake lights in front of us. We're going to try to slowly brake into. We're not going to drive all the way up and then slam on the brakes.
Yeah, that's it. We're trying to ease into it, so to speak.
You're listening to Barrero on The Fan.
Minnesota's home for the Western Conference. Wemby jump hook.
Iglesias on July 31st, Joe Bonamassa on August 15th, and Snoop Dogg on September 5th. Get all the details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Top 5 at 5 coming up. And by the way, if you have some sound bites that we have not yet played from all the exit interviews that you like, feel free to include those in the top 5 at 5.
We will do that, including with Bill Guerin from today.
Even better. Yeah, that's true. So the floor is yours.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you were able to go to this last game because you had some other duties.
Right, I was out of town.
Ends up being merciful for you, trust me, based on the way it went.
Watching it on your phone on Amazon Prime is not any fun either because you're like, it's buffering, it's streaming. Yes. I'm in Duluth.
Yes.
Like, come on, we're around a fire.
Yeah.
And then you're like, do I stay up? Do I not stay up? I get it, though. It was bad. And especially, and you nailed it, too, they come back from the dead where it's actually within arm's reach, and then immediately it's not. I saw your tweet at halftime, too, about are you going to ride with the starters? But knowing Finchie, you knew he wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
You knew he wasn't going to do it.
You know who I honestly felt bad for real quick? The fans, because
of course
they were ready. They wanted to, they were
hanging in.
They did not boo. There was quiet as it got out of control early, but they were not. They were there primed to try to participate in, holding on to just at least a little shred of hope. But go ahead.
In terms of the to-do list, I think, honestly, one of them, two of them on your list get eliminated with one, that you have to move on from Julius. You just have to. And everybody says this. He's a great guy. We love his kid, hyping everybody up courtside.
Yes.
Like, everybody says it, and it might not even all be his fault why he's an easy target.
It's not all his fault.
But it's just there's too much evidence that you can't win at a high level when your number 2 option is mostly this down. You could say up and down, and it wasn't all bad here. He helped carry them to the Western Conference Finals last year and was terrific. People were comparing him to having a LeBron James effect on the series.
After the first 2 series?
He was a complete bulldog. He cooked. But if being mentioned in Giannis trade rumors is going to send you, I think we're just done here. And you watch, people are putting together the lowlights of Game 6. Like, Game 6, your team needs you. Despite everything, you're right there with a Game 6 at home with Anthony Edwards, who can't walk, to force a Game 7. And in the first 2 possessions, you just let a guy walk right by you and have no interest in guarding them for dunks. Or an and one, I think, Castle, where Ant had to come over and foul him. And you can see it. The players are looking. And I get he's not the only moody one, but he's the moodiest. And I think he gives permission to the others to be moody or makes them moody. And so I just think you have to, and again, we all know why they made the trade, because that's being relitigated again. Why did they trade Towns? He's a step away from the finals. Right. We don't need to explain that again. We know the money reasons. We know who else they got. Berenjay's here because of that. Dante's here because of that. They have flexibility to do different things that they wouldn't have had if they had to pay Carl. But I just think you listen to what the players said after, multiple players, and we all see it. Like, we're all watching the same games. You just can't. It's just not workable. And Finchie, I think to his credit, tries to ride with guys and let guys play through things. But he does have a blind spot for Julius that he can't help for whatever the reason. And that's a weakness for him probably. But his comeback would also be, but I also know that doing what you want me to do isn't going to work either. So he's on the team. We need him. I have to try it this way. So I get all of that. But that's why I think, and we've talked about this now for 2 months, that's why I think you just have to eliminate the temptation and say we have to find, and you might take a step back next year.
We'll have to take it out of your hands, Coach.
Yes.
I'm taking it out of your hands. Yep. We are trading.
We're relieving you of that pressure.
Exactly. And here's the rub, and here's where I thought Finch failed in Game 6. We even said you probably can't bench him at the start of the game because you don't have that many other options, and you have to play the odds that for whatever reason he's going to come out hot and he's going to get 25 and 10.
Yes.
And give you a chance. But the flaw is it was readily apparent, once it became readily apparent again in that game for basically the 6th straight game, that he didn't have that in him. Then you have to make the switch and say, you're out. Sorry. And the notion that, well, I'm going to lose him this way, what's the distinction?
Right, the season's over.
At this point, the season's over. And even you could say, well, how well has your approach worked if we're constantly dealing with with regression to that place? And that's where I think he let other players down. I think other players had a right to say, look, we're probably going to lose the game. But there were several players that showed a pulse. Play it out with them. Now, obviously, you have to give them a little bit of rest or whatever, but and that includes sitting Rudy.
Yeah,
really, it was
who he's not afraid to sit. By the way,
that's true too.
And I think that's where I think other players have a right to be frustrated and get frustrated. Is that there was one stretch of the series where Randall had just been awful, and Jaden McDaniels made like one mistake, and Finch met him at half court.
Yes, like, what are you doing?
It's like, we're going to yell at Jaden, the guy who basically won you the last series, and granted, he's not perfect either, and he gets moody too.
Yeah.
But that's where we're going to make the point. I'm sure everyone else is looking around. I mean, Jane's like, hey, I'm guarding everybody in this series. I just guarded everybody in the last series. I do whatever you ask me to do because these guys need their shots. Like, that's where that's where I do think you lose people. And obviously I think that's where they lost people. Yeah. And fans aren't stupid. We're all at the games. We all see the games.
Yeah, people see it.
And these videos that are now circulating again, like, it's not the first or the last time, even in New York and here. And again, doesn't mean he doesn't have a role on a team or should never play. But if you're trying to win a championship, and that's what they say they want to do, you just can't win it with that iteration.
It's become bigger than he can't be the second best player on the championship team. On this team now, it's become, I'm not sure you can have him in the locker room at all because it too often looks as if he is having a negative impact on a lot of other stuff that's going on around him, and that's not workable moving forward. Real quick, as we prepare for top 5 at 5, the Wolves are moody. They played like duty. Time to trade Rudy. Spurs in 6. This is from 612 guy. You guys have all the answers. Grab the clipboard then. Now, the first part of that is Sid. That's always what Sid would do. Post-mortem, I'd write a column about, all right, what do the Wolves need to do next, or what do the Vikings need to do next, or Royce would do that. The next day, when Sid says, you guys get all the answers, don't you? You get all the answers. Well, yeah, we do. If someone would just listen to us. What are we going to listen to during the top 5?
We are going to listen to Bill Guerin discuss Quinn Hughes, the goaltender situation, and also some leftover things from the Wolves exit meetings where, believe it or not, Chris Finch did talk over the weekend, so they're not hiding him from the media and the fans.
Doesn't take much for
it doesn't. It's like, well, I know it was a nice weekend. Everybody's probably outside.
Right,
they probably missed the Timberwolves exit meetings.
Yeah, he talked extensively, though.
45 minutes, probably.
After extensively Friday night.
Yeah.
Ain't exactly you're hiding.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan